Hi everybody, I'm Rachel. I'm one of the practitioners at Happy Healthy You, and today we're going to make sauerkraut. So sauerkraut is one of the most basic, simple ferments. We start with cabbage, and basically you make a brine out of salt and water. So now I'm going to talk you through, for those ladies who've actually gone and gathered all the ingredients, we can make it together. So you can see I like to do half and half. I like to do half green cabbage, half red cabbage, and we have this great recipe called magenta sauerkraut on the Happy Healthy You website. So what you do is you take your cabbage. I've already cut these in half. As you can see, I cheated and I started prepping. When you have a whole cabbage, you peel off the leaves like so and save 2 to 4 of the outer leaves that are clean. As you can see, I've already got my little pile of beautiful leaves that I've washed and cleaned. Okay? So just save these, pop them to the side, because we will use those later. Now, get a big bowl. I know you all have a bowl and a sharp knife, and get your cabbage. I like to cut it in half so it's easier for me to work with. You can also use a mandolin, and there's special graters that you can use on a food processor. The biggest grating section, you can cut it that way. I'm old school and I like to cut it with a knife. So I hold it up and I just cut it really thin. Which I have done with this bowl, as you can see. And I do the same with both. Now, it's perfectly fine just to use red cabbage or use white cabbage. And sometimes I do, you just use whatever you've got. Let's start with the cabbage. After we've done some of the cabbage, we're gonna add in other vegetables, or you can just have a plain sauerkraut. So a plain basic sauerkraut is just cabbage. Often I like to add a carrot. Now, I've washed all my vegetables. I've also washed my hands, because you do use your hands quite a lot. I've got this little grater, which you could use any food grater, or you can use a stainless steel grater. You can use your food processor, or you can use a mandolin. Now, I've got this grater, and it makes long pieces of carrot, which I like carrot added to the cabbage. I think it makes a beautiful combination of colors when you've just got a little bit of orange and a little bit of the yellow cabbage or white cabbage. So you can see, I might just add a couple of those to that cabbage. So roughly, I use about a tablespoon of salt per half a kilo of vegetables. We do have this recipe on the website in case you forget, but roughly I add salt. I usually do it by an eye, but I will do it and show you because we're doing it to recipe. So you take a tablespoon of salt, add it to the dry cabbage. Tablespoon of salt, add it to the yellow cabbage. And you can these are our Cabbage Smashers. So lots of people like to use our hands, which you can use your hands. or you can use something like a rolling bin. Often what I do is I start with the cabbage and I mix it up. You know, you want to do this for a good 10 minutes. What the salt does is it helps release some of the juices from the cabbage. So then the cells are broken down in the vegetable, and that helps it start to ferment quicker. Now by mixing it, you're just getting all those great juices out from the cabbage. So I don't want to go too fast in case some of you are still chopping up your cabbage. You can see it's coated. So now you can take anything, if you, like I said, if you don't have, this is from a pestle and mortar. If you don't have one of these, you can use the ends of a rolling pin, okay? Or you can just use your hands. I find this just speeds it up. This is a great little tool. And I just mash away. What it does is it releases some of the juices. And then you get your hands kind of dirty, mix it in. Mix it in. And you're going to do this for about 10 minutes. Keep mashing. Now, I'm actually going to combine some of this cabbage to this one. Or this is a bowl that's probably easier for you to see. And we'll pop this aside for later. So let's just mash away. You can see the cabbage, you know, it starts to get a little bit softer as you mash. So what you do by fermenting it is you make the vegetables create what's called an anaerobic environment when they're sealed in the water. That means no air can get in. And then it starts to create what's called lactic acid. And the lactic acid helps the fermentation process. Now, by having this fermentation process, what you do is you speed up the production of B vitamins and healthy enzymes, such as probiotics. So these enzymes that fermented food makes actually helps you break down nutrients and absorb them better into your body. So it's great for gut health, great for your digestion. It tends to be really, really good food for people who've got like nervous system kind of insufficiencies. It's great for kids who can't focus. Studies have actually been shown with kids who have ADD and fermented foods and how they progressively improve. How are we going, ladies? Are you fermenting with me? Once you get the hang of it, it's just so easy and so fun. And for my family, I have a family of 5. I usually make 2 heads of cabbage, and then we've got sauerkraut in the fridge for a good 2 months. So I don't have to make it that often, unless I give lots of it away to my friends. So, just keep mixing. You can see, you know, the veggies are starting to break down. Now, next step, totally up to you as far as what you want to add to your sauerkraut. I've got beetroot as an option. Sometimes I find beetroot, you have to check it as it's fermenting because it can get soft quite quick. I've also got some grated turmeric, grated fresh turmeric, which is for inflammation. Loads of grated ginger, which is great. And I've got one jalapeno chili if you feel like you want a little bit of spice. So just a word of caution, when you do add things like ginger, turmeric, some people like to add garlic. You can even add things like pickling spice, caraway seeds. You can add other herbs. Sometimes I add fennel, sometimes I add dill. This is a pickling spice. As you can see, it's got a whole heap of seeds in there. But whatever you add is actually magnified in the fermentation process. So if you're gonna add garlic, just add 1 clove of garlic. If you want it really gingery, like we like lots of ginger, add lots of ginger. If you like lots of turmeric, add lots of turmeric. I find turmeric to be quite a strong taste, so for my family, we only add a little bit. I also find chili to be quite a strong taste, but I am going to add some chili to one of the bottles for me. Excuse my puppy barking away. She's not happy I've locked her outside. So, if you want the chili to be less spicy, you can de-seed it. Here you can see all you can see I've got chili, ginger, turmeric, and then we've got our beautiful sauerkraut mixture. So I'm going to add some ginger, cup of turmeric, and just a couple more sprigs of carrot. Just to make it beautiful. So, give that a good mix. With the ginger, I used about that much, a knob that was about half a finger. With the turmeric, I used about a pinky size of turmeric. Now, the chili, I'm just setting to the side for my special jar. As you can see, this part of the cabbage I have saved. I probably should have told you this at the beginning, but just save this piece. We will use it for later. Now, I want to walk you through all my different sauerkraut containers, okay? There's no right or wrong with sauerkraut. You can make it in whatever jar or container you have at home. You can save these jars, these little jam jars. You can use a mason jar. I find these are great. These are pretty cheap. They're from IKEA or Kmart. This is an actual beautiful sauerkraut. It's made for fermenting, and it's got the weights. And if you become a serious sauerkraut maker, you can invest in one of those. Otherwise, you've got a crock pot for larger quantities of sauerkraut. So now I'm going to show you two methods. Actually, let's do this jar today. Oh, just got jars everywhere. So let's start with this one. Make sure you have a clean jar. I don't sterilize my jars. I just pop them in the dishwasher on a high heat. I find that's enough. So once you've got this mixture that's been pounded and mixed really well, you just fill it. Fill it up. This is probably going to be enough for one jar. And once you get up like halfway, you want to pack it down. I pack it down with my hands because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an environment that has no air bubbles. Okay, so there's no air pockets. Now, if you want to make it look really pretty, you can add some big slices like this, just along the outside. See? All right. Let's see. All right. And if you like chili, you can put chili along there as well, but I'm just going to make a small jar of chili. Because not everyone in my family is going to eat it. And these are beautiful gifts for Christmas or birthdays or so you just tuck it in the side there, okay? You want to take the seeds out, you can take the seeds out. The beauty with fermenting is that you can be really creative. You know, you can come up with different combinations and there. So this one's got the chili. And let's fill this one up to the top. Now, if you've spent a lot of time pounding your cabbage, you will have more juice at the bottom. Now, I don't have as much juice, which is fine, because I'm going to add a salted brine, right? So, as you can see, I've packed it down. Make it as tight as you can. Pack this one down as tight as you can. And it's a little bit messy. See? All right. It's packed tight. So from there, what we're going to do is, this is 5 cups, okay? So roughly per liter of water, you're using about 2 tablespoons of salt to make a brine, okay? So, and what you do with this water is you're gonna add it just give it a little mix. Now for salt, ladies, I prefer to use like a Himalayan salt or a Celtic sea salt. Preferably not a iodized salt or a white table salt because it's so processed and refined. It's better to use a pure raw salt. So what you do with this water, this is what is called the brine. What you're gonna do is you're gonna just fill it so it covers your vegetables. And you check because you don't need too much water. You just want your vegetables to be submerged. And when they're submerged, that's what creates this anaerobic little beautiful environment where all your good stuff starts to take action. That's where everything has a little party. That's your little probiotic fermentation party at house. Okay, so those are nice and tight. Now what we're going to do from there is what you're going to do from here is you need to make a weight. So on top of the vegetables, this is where.
Can you use pure magnesium salt? Someone asked.
No, you can't use pure magnesium salt. That's a different type of salt. That's more, yeah, it doesn't create the same effect with the magnesium. Thanks for asking. So once that's pushed down, you're gonna gather, you don't have to use the cabbage leaves. I just find they're really helpful, okay? You might have to break them a little bit so they fit your container. And you just pop them in. You stuff them in so they're nice and tight. Can you see that? And this one's a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna pop it in like that. I actually have too much water, so I'm just gonna dump out a tiny bit of water. Tear off that bit. Now I actually like to use 2 leaves because sometimes I find one leaf starts to get a little bit slimy and you can just take it off and discard it. Just throw it away. So you pop those in nice and tight. Doesn't matter what color, they're both great. Sorry.
Someone asked if this will be up later, right? It will be saved.
It's all saved, ladies. If I'm going too fast for you, it's all saved. All right. So now that you've got as you can see, all your vegetables are submerged, right? So you want to make sure that there's no air pockets. If I push down, you might see a couple of air bubbles, and those will eventually come to the top. You want to try to get as many out as you can. Now, this is where you can use your core. Okay? So now I like to use the core as a little bit of a weight, but I'll show you a trick. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks actually. If you don't have the core, okay, if you don't have the core and your vessel's big, like this one, you can use a rock on top of the leaf. If you don't have a rock, you can also use, I just fill a little Ziploc bag with water and you can stuff that in. And that works as a weight as well. Okay? Now there's different options. Sometimes some people like to use a glass cup or a glass jar that fits in there, and it's just basically what you're doing is you're just making sure the vegetables are submerged underwater. So if there's vegetables that aren't submerged and they're a little bit above the water line, what happens is they can start to get a little bit slimy and discolored. That's fine. When you check your sauerkraut, you just scrape off those top bits of vegetables, okay? And if you look in the top and you see it starts getting a little bit of like white slime kind of film, I just use a serviette or a paper towel and I dab it around and I just kind of pull it off and throw it in the bin. So now that we've got these two, I've got a messy kitchen as well, but messy is good. So you take your core, you pop it in there, right? If you don't want to use that, like I said, you can use a rock. I have a clean rock. It doesn't want to count. Okay, so I pop these in. Let me show you. See, they're popped in nice and tight. Popped in nice and tight. And that's it. Now you just seal it. Okay. It doesn't have to be closed, just so you know. Sauerkraut containers don't have to be airtight. Now, I set them on my bench top. This it's not really sealed, and this will probably, I check it like every day, every 2 days, and it'll, depending on the climate you live in, if you live where it's really cold, it's gonna take longer for it to ferment. If you live where it's quite warm, I live in the subtropics, it'll be about 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, and then it's done. What you can do is you can check it every couple of days, you can taste it. If it's at the sourness that you like, just take it, take the top leaves off, close it, pop it in the fridge. It'll stay in the fridge good for 2 to 3 months at least, okay? So if you start making it now, you're gonna have sauerkraut for, the next couple months if you have enough. Now, a few tips is just make sure your sauerkraut is submerged, right? You've got your water-salt ratio. Do not add too much salt, because if it's too much salt, you can't take away the salt. If you add a little bit and it's not salty enough, you can always add a little bit more. The salt is only there to help the lactic acid process. The salt isn't really there for the flavoring. What happens is, as the fermentation starts to happen because of the salt, it starts this sour probiotic kind of taste. Now, when I keep my ferments in the kitchen, I like to put a little tea towel over the top of them. You don't have to. I only do that because it keeps all the little flies away, right? Now, if you ladies have any questions, just pop onto the Facebook group, pop onto live. I'm happy to answer anything. I know it was quite quick, and I cheated because I prepped a couple of things just so I could explain to you the whole process. And I've made a huge mess, and my dog hasn't stopped barking. But I hope you've had a great time watching this live. Next week, we're going to be making fermented vegetables. And the week after, we're going to be making kimchi. So, see you soon in the kitchen.